Story 1. Officer Terry. My name's Terry, and I'm just your regular police officer doing the night shift. One night, I was patrolling through the dark and foggy woods when I got a call from the dispatcher.
Copy 1430R.
Some campers had walked by a cabin and heard what sounded like screaming from inside. They were freaked out and thought it was worth reporting. I started driving towards the cabin, thinking it was probably just some folks having a wild night. As I reached the cabin, it looked like any normal cabin from the outside, but as I got closer, I couldn't shake this uneasy feeling in my gut. I walked up to the door and knocked, announcing that I was the police responding to a noise complaint. After a few minutes, the door creaked open, and there stood a man with a creepy smile, claiming he was just watching a movie. Something about his demeanor seemed off, and my instincts told me to be cautious. I asked to come inside and check things out, and the man seemed hesitant, but he eventually let me in. The inside of the cabin was dimly lit with the glow of a paused movie on the TV. It seemed like a regular setup, and I started to relax a bit, but that uneasy feeling in my gut wouldn't go away. As I looked around, I noticed a strange odor in the air, a mix of something metallic and putrid. My heart skipped a beat, and I wondered if I was walking into something far more sinister than just a noise complaint. As I glanced around the room, my eyes landed on a small rug near the couch. It looked slightly askew, as if it had been moved recently. My instincts kicked into high gear, and I casually asked the man if he wouldn't mind showing me around the rest of the cabin. He hesitated for a moment, but agreed, leading me towards the kitchen. As we walked, I could hear my heart pounding in my ears. The strange odor seemed to get stronger, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. We reached the kitchen, and I pretended to be interested in the various appliances and utensils. But my eyes kept drifting towards a locked door at the far end of the room. It looked old and worn, as if it hadn't been opened in a long time. I asked the man about the door, trying to sound casual. He seemed taken aback by the question, stumbling over his words as he tried to come up with an explanation. He said it was just a storage room and that he didn't have the key. My gut told me otherwise. But suddenly, there was a loud bang from under my feet. And before I knew it, I got hit hard in the face. I stumbled back, almost knocked out from the shock. My head was spinning, but I managed to gather myself. The man had a frying pan in his hand, and I knew I had to act quickly. I charged towards him, knocking him to the ground. With all my strength, I put him in a chokehold and managed to cuff him. I called for backup, not taking any chances. When my fellow officers arrived, we searched the cabin together. I headed down to the basement, and what I found there made my heart stop. In 3 small cages, like they were animals, sat 3 terrified girls, all 19 years old. They were visibly shaken, and my heart went out to them. Behind them, there was a room with a chair and tools on the walls. It looked like some kind of sick torture room. The girls had some injuries, but thankfully they would physically recover. It was a chilling sight, and I couldn't believe what had been happening right under our noses. Those girls had been living in fear and suffering at the hands of this twisted man. We got them out of there and called for medical assistance. The girls were traumatized, but they were alive thanks to the campers who had reported the strange sounds. I couldn't shake off the horror of what I had just discovered. I'm just a regular guy doing my best to protect and serve. And sometimes the true horrors of the world reveal themselves when we least expect it. I'm grateful that we were able to save those girls, but the memory of that night will forever haunt me. Story 2. Officer Luke. I'll tell you about the scariest night I've ever had as a police officer. It was a chilling evening, and I was on patrol when I got a call about an abandoned building with strange noises coming from inside. The address was out of the way, and there was an eerie feeling about it, but duty called. As I approached the building, I couldn't shake the sense that something was off. The darkness around the place seemed to swallow everything in its path. With my flashlight in hand, I cautiously stepped inside. The air was thick and musty, and I could hear faint sounds echoing from the depths of the building. I followed the noises, and the further I went, the creepier it became. The creaking floorboards under my weight added to the tension. I descended into the basement floor, and as I did, the sound seemed to grow louder. It was like someone was shuffling around down there, making a cacophony of noises. But then, as I approached one corner, the noises abruptly stopped. The silence was deafening, and I couldn't help but feel a shiver down my spine. I flicked my flashlight around, and that's when I saw him. A man sitting with his back to me, facing the wall. "Hey, show me your hands," I yelled, trying to assert authority in my shaky voice.
"Hey!"
But he didn't respond. Instead, he started mumbling incoherently, his words barely audible. I felt an unsettling feeling in my gut, like something was very wrong here. I took a step closer, repeating my command to show his hands. The man's mumbling continued, and I could feel the hairs on the back of my neck standing on end. It was then that I noticed something glinting in his hand. A knife. My heart raced, and I instinctively drew my weapon. "Drop the knife! Drop it now!" I shouted, my voice trembling. But the man seemed unaffected by my words. As I stood there in the dark, my heart pounding like a drum, the man slowly turned around to face me. I could barely make out his features in the dim light, but what I could see chilled me to the bone. His eyes were vacant, devoid of any emotion, and his lips were curled into a sinister grin. Time seemed to slow as our eyes met. I could feel the hairs on my arms stand on end as the man's eerie grin widened, revealing a set of yellowed, crooked teeth. Fear gripped me, but I knew I had to act quickly. "Drop the knife! Drop it now!" I yelled again, trying to steady my trembling voice. But the man's grin remained unchanged, and he started to move toward me, his steps slow and deliberate. Adrenaline surged through me, and I tightened my grip on the pistol. "I'm warning you, stay back," I shouted, my voice more desperate this time. My heart was racing and the cold sweat trickled down my forehead. But the man paid no heed to my warnings. With a sudden burst of speed, he charged straight at me, the knife glinting menacingly in the dim light. Panic and instinct took over, and I squeezed the trigger, firing a shot in his direction. The shot echoed through the basement, and the man stumbled back, clutching his wounded shoulder. Seizing the opportunity, I sprinted up the stairs, my heart pounding in my chest. I called for backup and an ambulance, knowing I couldn't handle the situation alone. When my fellow officers arrived, we cautiously approached the man again, taking no chances. He survived the gunshot wound and was taken into custody. The whole incident left me with an unsettling feeling for days, and I couldn't help but wonder what could have happened if things had turned out differently. Turns out, the man had a history of mental illness, and he later confessed that he had been living in that abandoned building for weeks, disconnected from reality. The encounter haunted me for a long time, reminding me of the dangers we face as police officers and the unpredictable nature of our job. To this day, I can't forget that sinister grin on the man's face as he charged at me. It serves as a chilling reminder that evil can lurk in the most unexpected places, and that night will forever be etched in my memory as the scariest and most disturbing encounter of my career. Story 3, Officer Jeremy. My name's Jeremy, and I'm just a regular cop doing the night shift. One night I was driving around and things seemed pretty quiet until my radio started going crazy.
Okay, you need additional time.
They tell me there's some creepy stuff happening at this house, and I gotta go check it out. It's in this rough neighborhood, and I ain't feeling too thrilled about it, but it's the job. I pull up to the house, and it's all dark and spooky. I knock on the front door, but no one answers. I hear some weird noises coming from the back, so I decide to check it out. I gotta admit, I got this bad feeling in my gut. I head to the backyard, flashlight in hand. It's super dark, and I'm on high alert. I stop and listen, but everything's quiet. I shine my light into some windows, but nothing's going on. Then I point my flashlight at the basement window, and I see a shadow moving real fast. I call out, "Police, open up!" But no response. I slowly open the basement door, and something just doesn't feel right, so I call for backup and wait. I ain't taking any chances in this creepy situation. While I wait for my backup to arrive, I hear this muffled talking, like someone's crying out for help. My heart starts pounding even harder, and I know I can't just wait around. I gotta make sure nobody's in danger down there. I decide to go in. I'm gripping my gun tight, and my heart's pounding like a drum solo. I walk into one of the doors, and then I hear footsteps behind me. My skin's crawling, and I'm thinking, what the heck did I get myself into? I yell out, "Come out or I'll shoot." I'm scared out of my mind, but I keep moving, trying to follow the sounds. Then I hear this door slam shut hard. I'm thinking, I should have stayed in bed. As I keep going, the sounds seem to get louder and more desperate. I shine my flashlight around, trying to figure out where the eerie noises are coming from. My heart is racing, but I can't turn back now. I find myself in a creepy maze of narrow corridors, each one leading to who knows what. The air smells all damp and gross. Every step I take sends this chilling echo throughout the basement, making me feel like I'm not alone. The sounds seem to be coming from different directions, making it hard to figure out where they're coming from. I follow the eerie whispers and faint cries, praying that I'll find the source. In one dark corner, I find a door slightly open. I go over carefully, and there, huddled in fear, is a little girl, tied up with tape on her mouth. Relief washes over me as I hurry over to her, gently removing the tape and telling her I'm there to help. The girl looks super scared but nods, trusting me to save her from this nightmare. Just as I'm about to lead her out of the basement, I hear a noise behind me. I turn around, gun ready, only to see the shadowy figure of a man coming out of the darkness. My heart leaps into my throat and I tell him to freeze. But the man just smirks, all creepy-like, and tries to run. My backup arrives just in time, and my fellow cops show up and catch the guy. With the little girl safe now, we check the place for any other danger. My heart's still racing from the search, and I know I won't forget that night anytime soon. I'm glad I could be there to rescue that little girl, even though I found her while following the weird sounds. It's moments like these that remind me why I became a cop, to protect and serve, even when things get scary. Story 4. Officer Larry. It was a chilly autumn evening when I received a call on the police radio.
14:30 hours.
The dispatcher's voice crackled through the static, informing me of a reported break-in at Eastwood Elementary School. I tightened my grip on the steering wheel, my heart pounding with a mix of anticipation and dread. Little did I know this night would be unlike any other. As I pulled up to the school, an eerie silence hung in the air. The dimly lit building stood before me, its windows reflecting the moon's pale glow. I stepped out of the car, the sound of my boots crunching on the fallen leaves, the only noise breaking the silence. With my flashlight in hand, I cautiously made my way toward the entrance. The door creaked open, revealing a darkened hallway. Shadows danced on the walls, playing tricks on my mind. I flicked on the flashlight, its beam piercing the darkness as I ventured deeper into the school. The hallways were empty save for scattered papers and the occasional overturned chair. It seemed like a typical case of teenage mischief, but something about the atmosphere felt off. A shiver ran down my spine as I heard a faint whisper carried by the wind. Ignoring the unease, I pressed on. Suddenly, a noise echoed through the corridors, causing my heart to skip a beat. It was the sound of hurried footsteps, growing louder with each passing second. I followed the noise, my heart pounding in my chest. The adrenaline coursed through my veins, fueling my determination to catch whoever was responsible. As I turned a corner, I caught a glimpse of a figure disappearing into another hallway. I quickened my pace, determined to apprehend the intruder. The hallways seemed to stretch endlessly, as if mocking my pursuit. The sound of my own footsteps reverberated through the empty space. A haunting accompaniment to the chase. Finally, I reached the end of the corridor, only to be greeted by a chilling sight. Bloodstains adorned the floor, leading to a classroom door left slightly ajar. My heart sank as I pushed open the door, revealing a scene straight from a nightmare. The room was in disarray, desks upturned, and walls smeared with crimson streaks. Fear gripped my chest as I scanned the room, searching for any sign of life. Then, I heard it. A low, haunting laughter echoing from the corner of the room. I slowly approached the source of the sound, my flashlight trembling in my hand. And there, standing in the corner, was a young boy. His eyes glowed with an eerie light, his laughter sending chills down my spine. It was a laugh devoid of innocence, one that seemed to belong to a different world entirely. With trembling hands, I managed to handcuff the boy, his laughter continuing unabated. As I led him out of the school, his laughter echoing through the empty halls, I couldn't shake the feeling that something far more sinister than a simple break-in had occurred that night. Back at the police station, we tried to identify the boy, but our efforts proved fruitless. No missing persons report matched his description, and no parents came forward to claim him. It was as if he had materialized out of thin air, an enigma that left us with more questions than answers. Months passed, but the mystery of the boy remained unsolved. The school became a place whispered about in hushed tones, its halls forever haunted by the memory of that fateful night. The boy's laughter continued to haunt my dreams, a constant reminder of the darkness that lurked in the shadows. To this day, the identity of the boy remains a mystery, lost in the abyss of the unknown. Some say he was a ghost, trapped in the school, forever reliving his sinister laughter. Others claim he was a manifestation of the school's troubled past, seeking redemption through his haunting presence. Thanks for watching The Haunted Sketchbook. Be sure to check out any of the videos on screen right now if you're planning on not sleeping tonight.